Welcome to tutorial 2, a series of probably 5 tutorials, I guess, all up will do. Now, I'll move over to GameMaker again. You'll obviously be given a channel of these videos by your design teachers, and you'll see these videos hopefully in that channel. Now, I'll go over to my other screen and you'll see where we were at the end of the series 1 tutorials, and there were 5 of those. I had gone to the room and I double-clicked on the room, of course, which brought up this tab up top, and I opened the room editor. Today I'm going to do a few things in here, and I'm also going to show you how to use resources. There's a few things missing here that you would have had when you started up your GameMaker. You can click on Layer View, and that gives you instances and background. If you want to do something or edit the background, and we'll do that today, you have background highlighted. But if you are programming objects, you need instances to be highlighted. So don't forget that bit. Now, the other thing you might like to see here are the layer properties. And you can see here, well, it's got an instance, it says, of the object on our layer. So that's useful as well. If I click background though, it comes up again with the color of our background. Now I'm going to use a sprite, and I'm going to make a tiled background today. But before I do that, I need to show you something else. Now, on your Wise page, you should have a resources file. It should be called Resources GameMaker. And when you download that file from Wise, and you can do that in Wise by simply going to your class page, and here's an example. I have here my files, and it's called GameMaker Resources. If I click on that, it comes down here as a resources zip file. Now, if I open that, it opens it up here. Now, while you can open that and see what's in it, you can't use those because Windows hasn't really unzipped them. It's merely let us look inside the zip file. To truly use these files as sprites, you need to unzip them. To do that, you find your downloads folder and you right-click on your resources zip file. You then need to extract these somewhere. Now, in my case, I almost always choose to use a local area where I unzip them to. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So if I click on Browse, once it says Select Destination, I always unzip them to what is a local drive, the C drive. And in my C drive, I've made a directory here, or a folder called DDZ, my initials, and local. And in here, I've got a folder called Game Making. So I would select that folder and it would unzip everything into a folder called Resources. You can see now that I've done that already. So I don't have to do it again. You would press Select Folder and you'll find your resources appearing there. That means you'll be able to find them. Now I'll just go back to GameMaker and you'll see what I mean when I'm going to add a sprite. I'm right-clicking here to create a sprite, right-clicking with my mouse, and I'm going to create sprite from an image again. In this case, I'm going to use a background, and I like this dark blue background. I'm going to open that. And you can see it appears here, which means it successfully imported my sprite. I'm going to call it background 1, just because I can, and because I might have other backgrounds when I do other levels of a game. Now I go over to background layer properties over on the right, and I'm going to select sprite. Now you wouldn't want the ball or the little person to be your background, but a background 1, that will be useful. And you'll see it'll appear up here as a little tile. To make it appear as a full background now, I need to make it tile horizontally like that, right across my room, and then vertically as well. And you can see now that it successfully added my background and created a more attractive background for us to look at. So that's how you make a background, by using your resources. While I'm at it, I figured I might use a hamburger somewhere. So I'm going to create another sprite from images. I'm going to find my hamburger, which is in resources. You have sounds, which we'll use later, but it doesn't see them because it's not an image. You have a lot of these other things here. These are from another game, and probably I would recommend you don't use those, but you go into here. The one I want to find is under the Various tab, and you'll notice these don't have the blue square background, so we could use any of these. They're just little icon files. They're very small. There's my hamburger one, and again, I've got this here, and I'll call that hamburger. Now, I have not made them objects yet. I might do that a bit later, but for the moment, I'm simply doing that as a way to show you how to use resources. I'm going to next have a wall around my room, and I can make a maze by using a wall. Now, in this general various sprites resources, there is a square icon which will look a bit like a room when I bring it in. So I'm going to call that wall 1. There are other versions of this to be found there, and I'll need that to be an object. So I'm going to create an object, and I'm going to use the wall sprite there as my object. I'm going to make the wall solid, and I will use that just like I've used it there. I do not need to add any other events, but what I need to do now is to try and make my player do something when it hits the wall. So to do that, I need to make our player collide with the wall, and what I'm going to do to stop the player going through the wall is to force the object to reverse, and I need to add a collision event. So I'm going to go into collision, and when you select collision event, it talks about, well, it shows you 3 options. Every object will appear here, and if I collide with the wall, it allows us to program what will then happen. Now, again, if I hold my center mouse button down, I can move this right across there, and rather than zoom out, remembering you can zoom out as well by using the Control plus and minus keys together, and zoom in and out. So I'm going to force it to reverse in direction. So when we have this reverse command, it has 2 options to reverse command. I'm going to force it to bounce in the horizontal direction, and I'm also going to force it to bounce back in the vertical direction. It should effectively, this will stop it going through the object, the wall, and it will have an effect. At the moment, though, my room doesn't have any walls on it, but I'd better save all of that code just so I know what's going on there. Now, of course, again, if I use my center mouse and then the left mouse button to drag it across, I can see what's going on here. We've got the object, we've got the events, and we have the coding tools that we're using over here, which are our programming tools. So we click the room again to bring back the room view. I need to add my object to the room. Now I can drag that in. Now you'll notice what will happen here. It says X. Why does it say that? It says the selected layer does not accept the dragged resources. And I did this on purpose to show you something. And if you read it carefully, it says object, instance, layer, sprite, background layer, path, path layer. So it's saying that the layer up here on the top left is wrong. It's the background layer. If you remember earlier, you'll remember that I said you need to select instances. So we're going to click on instances here, and now I'll try to drag the object on. And you can see that I can successfully drag it up here. One thing that's important to understand, you can see here that I've made my walls, but you probably don't want to add hundreds of objects for a wall all at once. You need to select object each time you do that, and if you drag the object to the screen like this, you can place it accurately where you want it to go. And that's okay, but if you want to put multiple copies of an object, like these walls I've made here, and I'm going to make a kind of maze, and it will be a simple maze, but I want my character to be able to walk through the maze, so it has to be of an appropriate size, and these solid objects are going to cause our little fellow to move in the right direction. So first of all, I'm going to select object. Now I'm going to hold down the Alt key. When you select the Alt key, it comes up and shows you a picture of the object, and then you click with your mouse and you drag it where you want it to go. Now I want a maze that might be maybe 3 wall bricks wide, or maybe 2. Let's say 2. Now I'll do another one up here. And you can see that you need to go fairly slowly, but if you put your mouse over the blanks, it will fill them in for you. And I now have a kind of imperfect maze. It's not really a maze. I might just do another one down here so that we can have a good idea. And I'll do a single line here. I have 3 there that I don't want. How do I delete them? They're all selected and I press the delete key. I'll come back to that in a minute. I'm holding the Alt key down, and now I click my mouse and I drag them up. And as I said, I only want one line here. And I've got some extra ones that I put in. And you see here, I want to clean this up now. So in order to clean it up, I want to delete just the ones I want to delete. I'm going to now use my Control key and click with the mouse. Holding the Control, click, click. Both of those are now selected. Press the Delete key, and they've gone. I'll do the same with these over this side. Just the Control key. And I can delete all of them together. I said I didn't want these. I can select the whole group of them there, and we're getting rid of them gradually. I can even go over here and get rid of these odd ones and clean it up like that. So now I have my basic maze. The object I'm going to play with in the room is the ball. I'm going to have a ball that will bounce around and be able to be kicked around, I think. So we'll put the ball there on the screen, and I might just have another row of wall here. Alt key and come down here and just get rid of that one up the top. Select by just clicking and delete. So we have the basis of a maze here now. At this point, I'm going to save my game, and I am going to try and move around the room. So I'm running it again, run the game again. The pattern you make is completely up to you, of course, and it doesn't have to be this particular wall. You could make a wall out of anything that happens to be a sprite. So you could make it appear the way you want it to appear. I'll bring the game when it's running onto this screen so you can see what I'm doing. You can see the list of instances of all the objects in the room there as well. A little fellow here is trying to run, and we'll just have a look. Oh, can't go through the walls, that's good. No, so I have to follow the maze around. And that's exactly the effect I wanted. And you have to navigate past that. You could probably make it run in a different way, but there you can see it's working reasonably well. Now the ball doesn't move, and when you put an object on the screen like the ball, I can just go straight through it because the ball isn't programmed to interact with our little moving character. I'll leave this tutorial there. In the next tutorial, we'll look at interacting with other objects.